This is GKW. Welcome to another edition of Good Karma Wrestling. We've got the gang back together just in time for the holidays. Brian Rowitz taking time out of the busy bowl schedule, Boca Raton Bowl, all the big things going on down there in West Palm. And, of course, from ESPN 1000 in Chicago, our good as well. Different episode today. This is what we typically do around this time of year, not talking about what's going on Monday Night Raw or the event that they had. By the way, huge fan of Kevin Owens declaring himself the champion, walking around with the winged eagle belt. Great move by them. Not talking about what happened on Dynamite on Wednesday. No, we are looking back at the entire year. It is time for the GKW Year in Review, where we hand out the biggest awards, clearly the most prestigious awards in all of professional wrestling, right here on GKW. And we begin with one of the big ones right away, Brian. We start with the promotion of the year. Who was the promotion of the year in 2024?
So I want to say AEW. Like, I enjoy the wrestling. I enjoy the pay-per-views every single month or so now, which, remember, there was a time we only did 4 of those a year? That seems like forever ago. Mm-hmm. But I think I have to go WWE. From the storytelling, from the business standpoint, they're moving to freaking Netflix, for crying out loud. Like, as big as Max is, it's still not Netflix. So I lean WWE here just because there have been more of those moments that storyline-wise you want to see paid off. You want to see those big moments. Little things like the New Day heel turn, like Dom turning heel as a heel. Things like that had that emotional impact on you. I go WWE here.
I think one of the reasons why you go WWE is because of the hole they had to dig out of around Vince McMahon. I think that Triple H has been able to take the bull by the horns, and he has been able to create the company the way he wants. It's one thing, guys, to be able to be on Netflix, and that's going to be exciting for the company in 2025. But I just think that the style that Triple H has brought to the table with the bloodline and the way he has a slow slow burn for a lot of his storylines. He's shortened up the pay-per-views, 4 or 5 matches. He's got it the way he wants it right now, and the audience is adjusting, and they have not taken a step back. They are back in the pro wrestling business, and that's why WWE deserves all the credit.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's not to say everything's a home run. See, right. Testament, final. No, thank you. And even I think some of the Wyatt Six stuff has kind of gotten away from them, and I respect them for trying that, but it's just really hard to, I think, do something like that without the guy whose idea it actually was, and Bray Wyatt, unfortunately. But I mean, between the bloodline somehow still being the best thing in all of professional wrestling and continuing that through line, I know we've complained at different times about Cody and how he hasn't necessarily been booked strong, but somebody like Gunther. I mean, we talk about making new stars. Like Gunther he's one of the very few that have come from NXT, has been presented in a way on the main roster and has continued that dominance. And now as a champion, Rhea Ripley in what she has done. I'm sure we're going to get to a lot of these different people when we get to male and female, wrestlers of the year. But it's clearly
I'd throw, by the way, real quick on that, Braun Breaker. Throw him in that mix.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think they've done a really good job of elevating some different talent as well. AEW, there was a lot of ups and downs, I think, throughout the course of the year. They certainly hit some high notes with, the retirements of Sting and Bryan Danielson and some of that storytelling around then, certainly hit some high notes, but there are also a lot of lulls in there. So to me, it can't be AEW. I look at WWE. Again, you mentioned the business aspect of it and what they got from Netflix, NBC, Universal, from, doing now, back to Saturday night main events and having, 4 of those, 1 a quarter going forward as well. You can't forget about NXT being on CW. That's a big deal for them as well. So WWE, to me, it's a runaway for promotion of the year.
The other thing, too, is that from AEW standpoint, the reason why it's not AEW for me is because they're going through a slump as far as their creative is concerned. They need a next act after CM Punk. That's as simple as I could put it. There was some must-sees with Sting and a few others throughout the years of AEW, but a lot of the injuries hurt them. It was good to see Kenny Omega in a kind of a vignette where people say, look for Kenny Omega in 2025. But some of the guys they used to hit on that were must-see are just not around. And so they're just trying to figure out what can strike hot for this company. The reason why the attendance is down, or if you believe the ratings are real, the reason why it's down is because it's not about the wrestling. It's about the attractions and the stories. They're just trying to come out from underneath and try to get better in that in 2025.
And I think also just like weekly TV, like Raw and SmackDown, yes, there are skippable parts, but for the most part, you're watching every Monday and every Friday. You want to watch, you're hooked. When it comes to AEW, Dynamite, for the most part, is must watch every week. If you miss one here and there, it's fine. Rampage, there's a reason this is the end of it. And Collision, as hot as that started. I mean, we're a couple weeks away. But Collision, like you mentioned Punk, when it was Punk's show, that was must watch every week. And now it's like, well, I'd rather watch this college football game. So the consistency, I think, to me, is the biggest thing that stands out when it comes to WWE right now.
So what did you think then was the PLE or pay-per-view of the year, off of promotion of the year? What was the best, standalone show in your mind?
I don't know, man. I mean, you know why? It's something AEW for sure.
Sure.
I poured through it this morning. Boy, you know how difficult that is? You know how hard that is to find? I mean, because Ospreay's on most of them. so, I mean, and that makes a whole card sometimes. So what I did, Gabe, is that I just picked one. So, okay, let's just go to AEW Dynasty. Let's use that. Okay. Like, I don't know if it's right or wrong. I just know that Swerve Strickland became the champion, defeating Samoa Joe. The same card that we saw Ospreay against Bryan Danielson. That's one of the reasons why I picked it, because that's the dream match. They went 32 minutes in that match. We got Young Bucks against FTR in a ladder match in that same card. We saw Tony Storm beat Thunder Rosa. We saw Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly. So I thought that was a very, very good card for AEW. But if you told me Revolution, if you told me some other ones, there's no argument. Whatever it is, it's AEW, but you just got to pick the one that you want. So I'll just use that one as an example.
So for me, like, same mindset, but I think more of the Heisman Trophy when you have two offensive players that are the studs and they still vote from each other. So because of that, I go WrestleMania. And like the way they hit on all the notes and hit all the different things, like you can't pick just one AEW show. I feel like there were so many highs of WrestleMania being in Philly that I default to that.
Which one? One or two?
One.
Okay.
Yeah.
Night one. Okay.
Night one. Yeah.
Really? Over night two?
I think so. I think that one was a little bit more memorable, but like obviously you put them together. That's amazing, but that's also 8 hours of wrestling. So that gives them a little heads up there. But yeah, I think the AEW pay-per-view just take from each other because yes, everyone is going to have those 4 to 5 matches that are like, all right, must see. I'm good to go. Like I'm excited to go to World's End next week in Orlando. I don't even know if I have a full card yet, but I know it's going to deliver and it's going to be a hell of a show. Like I'm going to sleep in some woman's house that I'm getting on Airbnb, call it a day, and it's going to be amazing.
Oh my!
See the family the next day.
Risque. Revolution. I went with Revolution 2024. Again, and I think maybe because it was Sting's last match and the way that they handled that was spectacular, but also on this card, you have Samoa Joe, Swerve Strickland, and Hangman in a triple threat. Ospreay, of course, was going to be on the card. Takeshita. I am a big Deonna Purrazzo fan, and I thought that what she did with Tony Storm was a lot of fun. So that was on that card. Roddy Strong with Orange Cassidy, Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson. So I default again. It's a long time ago, but Revolution, and again being headlined by Sting. So the fact that it was Sting's last match, you still had all the greats that you expect in an AEW card. So that's where I went to Revolution for me. Because of how that was handled.
So let's break down Brian's night one. The Bloodline, The Rock and Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman against Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins.
Yeah, we saw The Rock take a table bump in the year 2024.
Sami Zayn against Gunther. Jade Cargill.
Okay, well, we just got to the bottom of why night one ended up being his pick.
For
Sami going
title.
over Gunther.
Yes, for the IC title. So that's it right there. So we can stop right there.
Mystery solved.
So Rhea Ripley against beat Becky Lynch.
Yep.
That's how it started. We got we got the tag team championships. We can skip that. But
that was the ladder match, wasn't it? That night?
You got A-Town Down Under.
Yeah.
Awesome
it was fine.
Truth.
It was a ladder match. It had its moments.
You got Damian Priest in there. Okay. So then you get
so you had Priests with
remember both titles were up for grabs is how they did it.
Yeah. 6-pack tag team ladder match for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. Both sets of titles were on the line. Yes.
Yeah, separately. So that did its part.
Okay. So I just wanted to go through it so people would know why you chose night one.
Okay. So night one involved Punk, correct? Or was that night two? When he was on commentary.
With the Drew moment? Now I don't even remember. That was night two because Priest was in the tag match night one.
Yeah. Okay.
And then night two, he was involved in that.
That Drew McIntyre defeated Seth Rollins, and then the interference from Punk, correct?
Punk. Yeah.
That was the first Punk, match on night two.
Priest, then Priest came out and...
No, but Rhea Becky, the IC title match, The Rock in a main event of WrestleMania, like, it's close. Both nights were incredible, but I lean that way just because of what they're able to do and all those stories they were able to tell that night.
And you take Revolution because, I mean, you're talking about, first of all, a legit sellout in Charlotte, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they sold that out quickly. Yes, I believe because again, you're going to that Southern promotion with Sting, the WCW legend, for his last. And I think we've talked about this before, but I wish Taker could have had the send off that Sting did, right? And Sting, the way AEW handled the entire Sting era in AEW was handled perfectly. Just absolutely. They made him an attraction. They didn't overexpose him. They put him in a lot of tag matches so he could be protected, but he still did a bunch of crazy stuff, jumping off of the number of things that he did. I thought that they handled the Sting era as well as you could have.
And there will not be and it won't be a comeback. It looks like he's definitely done. He's going to push his son out there, but it's not one of these things where you're going to circle back because we don't need to see Sting again. He did everything that I wanted. It was perfect. Taker has to be jealous because the way they handled Sting was just beautifully done. He retires with the tag team championships. What a great moment.
Yeah, and that's, again, one of the best feel-good moments at the end of a pay-per-view as well. We move on to our next award here on GKW as we give our year-end awards. What, Announcer of the Year is next?
We're going to go, it's one category, but two sort of subcategories. We're going to go Match of the Year here, but the first one is the Will Ospreay category. So this one involves Will Ospreay, and then we'll have a separate category for a match that does not involve Will Ospreay because, well, he's Will Ospreay.
Okay, so for Ospreay, I had three options that I eventually wrote down that I came down to. It's got to be one of these three. Ospreay Fletcher at Full Gear, most recent. Ospreay Pac at All Out, or Ospreay Danielson at Dynasty. Those were the three that I had initially written down that I'm still trying to decide between. Yeah, Did anybody have any outside of those three?
I did, and it's but Ospreay Danielson AEW Dynasty would be my pick out of the three. Doesn't mean the other two are bad. You just asked me to pick a card.
We're picking the best Will Ospreay match. Like this is an exercise in futility, right?
Yeah, I mean they're all 5 or 6 stars, so there's nothing you can do about it. So that would be my choice of my favorite match in America. So I'll just choose.
Wait, we've got a third.
Oh wow!
Yes,
Match of the Year, Will Ospreay American only category.
Yes. This one is international. This is Ospreay International. The best match I saw from Ospreay this year was against Michael Oku in Rev Pro. There's just the story is that Ospreay is actually a kind of heel, and people know Ospreay's going to AEW. That's his last match on the quote unquote indies before he comes to AEW. I told you guys, it was one of the best matches I've ever seen. I never say that on this show. Never. Because I've seen a lot, and I don't ever want to do hyperbole for this, but Michael Oku against Will Ospreay, which Ospreay loses in Rev Pro, was one of the greatest matches I've ever seen, and in which Ospreay puts Oku over and leaves to go to AEW. It's awesome.
The other one I have out there for him also is the tag match, the him and Fletcher versus FTR.
Yes.
Okay.
Random TV. I don't even remember whether it was Collision or Dynamite, but like that tag match was like, oh yeah, that delivered. And it was sort of telling the story there. And the amazing part about this category is no world title for Ospreay. Like he got a world title shot and that match, of course, delivered, but he ended up losing it. but like we're still able to get to a next level because I feel like when he's in that main event spot and ultimately is the AEW World Champion and defending that title on a month in and month out basis, somehow there's going to be a next level of Ospreay, if that's even possible.
Has he cooled off though? Have they cooled him off because he's lost a lot?
Yeah,
he has lost a lot in this first year in AEW. Did they miss out on an opportunity to potentially not put it on him sooner? Or because he's Will Ospreay, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Maybe he's the face of AEW in 2025 at some point after Darby wins the title. But by the way, so Ospreay can wrestle 57 minutes and never give up a pinfall. But on Dynamite, we gotta go. We gotta. So hey, time's ticking here. You need to take the pinfall. You need to eat this against Darby Allin. So I think that it's the smart money is that Ospreay's the face of the whole operation in 2025 at some point. And become the champion. The crowd's behind him. He doesn't do anything less than a 5-star match. And so I just think that he's that guy. I think it's funny. I went through the old Cage Match website and Ospreay's all over it, man. There's like 25 matches. I'm like, what do you want me to do here?
And like every promotion, like remember before he like fully signed, he would just go like, oh, I'm going to go to Impact. I'll wrestle Speedball here. I'm going to, do the stuff at Red Pro. I'm going to go here. I'm going to do that. Like, Billy Corgan, you missed the boat. You should have brought him in for one NWA show and he would have tore the house up. Didn't matter who was on the other side. He would have made it work.
Dothan, Alabama.
Yes.
Like that.
Should he be the one? Because I know we've talked a lot about, the Death Riders in AEW and maybe whoever eventually defeats Moxley to free the AEW world title from his grasp should be a new star. But should that be Ospreay? Should Ospreay be considered as the person who saves AEW? Does that catapult him then to that face of AEW status?
I say yes. You got to get past this whole Fletcher thing, and I don't know how long that looks like a blood feud. And by the way, if you do it right, it could be Punk and McIntyre. If you did it right, if you rush through it, then it's not going to work. But this could be 8 months. I mean, it could be, but I mean, it's AEW. Who knows?
Yeah, I think like him as a champion is that fresh coat of paint. Not that he needs it, but it is just sort of a different angle and him sort of carrying it. In terms of the question and picking just one, I go the Danielson match at Dynasty just because of the sheer like fantasy booking of it. Like one of those are like, oh, you got the top guy of this era, the top guy of this era. One of those matches you never actually expect to see. And we did. Like we saw Ospreay and Danielson in a ring together, probably arguing with each other about who was actually going to lose, but we got to see it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we knew Danielson couldn't lose at that point, right?
Yeah, you never know.
I mean, well, at that to the point of he couldn't argue for himself to lose. I think he knew when he was going to lose, so I think they kind of maybe didn't get that big of an argument in. But the fact that Danielson could still be as good, as beat up as he is continuously, as we hear now after his retirement, if he doesn't even know if he's going to be able to wrestle ever again, for him to be as beat up as he was, to know that he potentially needed neck surgery and still be able to deliver the quality of matches he did down the stretch, including this one against Will Ospreay. I think, again, that's while this is the Will Ospreay category, like the opponent and, we got this dream match. And even though both aren't in their primes, like Danielson got as close as he possibly could, given his physical limitations, and the match delivered. So I'm with you. I lean towards Ospreay Danielson, a Dynasty being the ultimate Will Ospreay match of the year.
Yep.
Where is MJF Ospreay on that list? Does it make it top 5?
Somewhere towards the top, maybe top 10, top 5.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. I think top 10. I don't even know if I would go top 5 because there's so many other options with him.
Yeah. I'm just wondering because we talk about MJF a lot on the show about how technically sound he is, how over. You talk about a guy who's cooled off some. That's him in 2024. I mean, well, I can't say totally cold because when he's on the mic, he pops a number. People are interested in him. He's very good on social media. But as far as him being a top guy, kind of in this whole thing, this vortex with Adam Cole's not very entertaining until we see them in the ring.
He was a white meat babyface at BRCW in front of 200 people this weekend.
You were one of the 200, of course.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Look, he goes to. He's now referring to Boca Raton Championship Wrestling shorthand. BRCW. Like everybody should know what BRCW is.
It's unbelievable. Only Brian Rowitz would go to a wrestling event with chandeliers in the room.
Yeah, we were in the ballroom at the synagogue. It was like I was at a bar mitzvah. It was a grand old time.
Yeah, shalom.
Well, again, he's the people's champion there.
Well,
certainly in
that's the
stand-up.
angle. QT, who is half Jewish, hates his Jewish side. So MJF was out there to defend the honor of the people.
Only if AEW had that story. Oh my!
You think it's going to translate over? You think they were just kind of testing the waters in the synagogue before they put it on national TV on Wednesday?
Boy, Max would pull that deal before your head would spin. I'll tell you that. Like, what? We're not doing that.
Oh.
Jewish
All right.
Yeah, all right. Match of the year, non-Will Ospreay category.
Okay, so the ones I have written down, Sting and Darby versus Young Bucks. I don't think that this is ultimately the match of the year, but it deserves a shout out. Roman Cody at WrestleMania, I think deserves consideration. Again, was it the match of the year from a technical standpoint? No, it was an overbooked, glorious display of sports entertainment, but it was so much damn fun. I think it deserves to be on the list.
And it got people believing Dean Ambrose was back somehow. Like, so there was a lot going on in that match.
That's very true. Very true. Sammy versus Gunther at WrestleMania was very good. And then I also have Swerve Danielson on the list.
Boy, because there's so much product, this is very difficult also.
Yes.
To boil it down to a match of the year, non-Will Ospreay, you know how hard that is? Okay, so I will tell you first, the best match I saw live in 2024 was Windy City Riot here in Chicago at the Wintrust Arena. Zack Sabre Jr. against Matt Riddle. That's the best match I saw live. Okay, and that was on pay-per-view. But then you get to matches like Gunther Orton. I thought that was an excellent match. I know that it kind of gets lost in the sauce, but I mean, that was a really good match. I boiled it down to, guys, Hell in the Cell Punk McIntyre.
Okay.
For non-Ospreay, and believe me, I can give you 25 AEW Dynamite matches that might have been on the same category. But I mean, Punk McIntyre, because of the story and because they're all in the cell, you got a legit gash in the head of Drew McIntyre in that match with the toolbox, I believe, and that was that match. I just thought that was very, very solid.
It's funny, like I wrote down 5, and most of them haven't even mentioned Hangman Swerve All Out. And everything they did, you talk about storytelling.
You want to talk about long-time storytelling.
Yeah. So you have that one. Kingston versus Bryan, where Kingston's the champion defending it. Bryan has to shake his hand at the end of it.
Yeah.
And part of me, yes, I'm an Eddie Kingston mark. So like Eddie getting that moment was pretty cool. And then a couple women's matches. Statlander versus Willow, the street fight.
Stat Willow I had on my list as well.
Mm-hmm. I thought they got a stage and they delivered. And then Rhea Becky from Mania. I think it was a big spot for both them opening that weekend, them being the first match of night 1. And doing what those two do in the ring.
Are we missing any other women's matches? I feel like we're missing some other AEW bloody.
So I haven't seen it yet, but apparently Mercedes from New Japan this past weekend, some are calling the greatest women's match ever.
I have a code.
Okay.
Just go ahead. Let's share the wealth here, huh?
You know what? We all three of us has been busy.
Yep.
That's been on the back burner. Our brother has 3 days off after the show.
There you go.
So I will take a look and share a code with you, sir.
Yep. People are raving about that one. So like, good job there. And I'm trying to think of some others. Like I had trouble even getting these two. Like nothing, like it was a good year of women's wrestling, but there wasn't anything that sort of stood out.
Yeah, other than Willow Stat, like that was the first one because I wanted to have a women's match on my list, and that was the one that just kind of stood out right away. Because even like when you start talking about some of the best, wrestlers of the year, it's more about like Rhea Ripley. I mean, she finally wrestled on television, like a week ago, like since the first time since God knows when. So it's not like even some of the best stories being told in either promotion didn't really necessarily involve those top women getting in the ring all that often.
Willow Mercedes, Double or Nothing.
Yeah, that was really good. Well, it's weird also because like I want to put Tony and Mariah to give them their flowers, but like the match was okay, but the storytelling and even where we're at now with the storytelling of Tony Storm going through what Tony Storm's going through, like it's all so damn good.
We'll get to more on Tony. I think Tony's going to be getting her flowers potentially later in the show. I think there's going to be some love for Tony coming up, not that far from now. So, do you have a final pick of what you have for match of the year, Brian?
I think I'd go Hangman Swerving All Out. The way they pushed the boundaries. I know it wasn't for everyone, but like it was fun.
No, it was very solid. Punk McIntyre, Hell in the Cell. I'll just go with that. But there's, oh my God, there's so many matches. It's hard, man. When you got so much product that's on cable, PLE, pay-per-view, international. I'll just settle with that because I love that feud so much.
It's crazy for me because I feel like I picked Revolution because of Sting, and I'm going to pick Sting and Darby Young Bucks. And I wasn't even like, as a kid in the 90s, like I was more of a WWE like guy than I was WCW and Sting. But at the same time, I just the match and the story that they told was fantastic. So I go Sting Darby versus Young Bucks is my match of the year.
Because of all the stakes and just the nostalgia of it. By the way, hats off.
But it delivered
properly. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the Young Bucks, like it was also like classic Young Bucks in a match, which we didn't get a lot of, I feel, in 2024. Like the Bucks are, in terms of in-ring performers, among the best tag teams of all time. And I think some of that got lost as 2024 continued. But that match to me was like classic Young Bucks. So that's why I also kind of put it there. What do we have next? Next category, Brian.
Well, we got to go up to the media side of things. Who was your announcer of the year?
Swerve Strickland Ospreay. Also, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I really enjoyed Nigel McGuinness on Collision. I think Nigel was fantastic. We got a little bit of the payoff from him from returning with All In as well, and then he finally gets his match. I wish they could have done it a little bit differently with him versus Bryan Danielson, but the way he kept that feud alive, I just think he did a fantastic job on Collision. I know it's not the premier show in AEW, but man, when he gets those opportunities as well, and he's gotten more because Taz is off right now of AEW, so he gets a little bit more opportunities on Dynamite as well. I really enjoyed the work that Nigel McGuinness did.
Well, I mean, that should be the Michael Cole Award because he's the GOAT now of this era of professional wrestling. I'm going to give a nomination to Walker Stewart from New Japan. Young guy. Like he's not even, I don't even think he's 30 yet, but he's got pipes. He's very good on New Japan, young guy. Nigel McGuinness has kept Collision together next to Shivani. He's kept it because you could tell he's got his yellow pad of like jokes written out, his lines. I mean, it's expertly done, by the way. Very good. The announcer of the year is Joe Tessitore. How about that? Give him credit, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't been a full year for him, but like, I think WWE's finally found that guy. Because how many times have they dipped into other places to try to grab that? Whether it was Adnan Virk, which unfortunately didn't work out. Whether, I mean, obviously McAfee has worked out to a certain extent. Now, Jimmy, what was Jimmy's last name?
Yeah. I couldn't even pull out Jimmy, so good job there.
He was fine, but it just didn't seem to connect. Obviously Mauro Ranallo from all those years ago, like that worked at times, but Tess just seems to get it. And maybe part of the other failures were you're not used to Vince in your ear, right? And he would be constantly going at you, and that's different. And by all accounts, it seems like Hunter's letting these guys be who they are. Like you hired Joe Tessitore to let him be Joe Tessitore. And Brian, you pointed this out a couple of weeks ago when Drew McIntyre came, had the surprise return, came flying back. Like he wasn't playing along like, oh, who is that? Like, no, that's Drew McIntyre. I can clearly see him. Like you can see him too. And he just brings that energy and just has, because he's Tess, he's done Monday Night Football. He's done all these big college football games, big time boxing matchups. There's a certain gravitas that he brings with him. So I think Tess definitely deserves some love in this category for sure.
The first time that he took the microphone, you knew he was a WWE fan or a fan of the genre. Mm-hmm. That's what stood out. It wasn't like one of these mechanical things where it's like they're scripted to say this, they're scripted to say that. He's just like his college football. he just has his things that he wants to say, the way he wants to say it. He does refer to his notes a lot, but he just looks down just for a refresher and then looks in the camera. And it's reassuring because when you watch him, it's like, oh, he's one of us. He actually watches the product every week. I also want to give Corey Graves his flowers too. The three of us know how difficult that is to go from color to play-by-play and to be able to do both. And so for the time that they were trying to find a guy for Corey to work with Stu, what's his name? Wade Barrett.
Wade Barrett. Bad news.
Yeah. I thought Corey did a really solid job of doing play-by-play when he's not a play-by-play guy. So, hats off to him for doing both roles at some point in 2024.
Yeah, I went Joe T also, again, like you said, Gabe, not even a full year, because he just adds such a legitimacy to where, like, when you're watching that big college football game, it's like, hey, that's the announcer on Raw. And, like, it's the same excitement, the same delivery to where it doesn't feel like it's forced. Or it's like, oh, fine, it's a paycheck. Like, there's just something he adds. And I do wonder, like, if you're not a big sport fan outside of wrestling, if it has the same connection. Because I do think, to me, like, I associate with him college football. It's the voice you grew up with listening to. So that adds to it. I wonder the non-football fans, but still, like, a hell of a few months from him.
I don't know which game he's doing, but you're going to tune in at some point this weekend. If you're watching college football, he's going to be doing one of the playoff games this weekend. Like, he's as big time as it get, outside of, getting one of the number one voices of the NFL or, even over at ESPN. Like that's as big of a hire as there can be. And the transition has been as seamless as possible. He has been fantastic. I think he definitely deserves that love.
That is all Khan in the front office of WWE, Nick Khan.
Yeah.
That's all him, man. I mean, he's marrying sports with wrestling. I know that had to be hard for Vince at the end. He goes, who's this guy? Why do we have this? And why do you like Triple H gets it though. He understands. Right. Like there's a voice that people know and the guy can do the job. Oh, what a novel concept. You do the job and a fan, right? And so I think he's been very smooth. I was joking on the last show, that special we did for Saturday Night's Main Event. People can go to the podcast and hear our review of Saturday Night's Main Event. We came on after the show, and I said, has anyone looked at some contracts here? Here's an ESPN guy just on NBC, just hold the peacock mic like, we're here on Long Island. I'm like, what are you doing here? Isn't there a game? Nope, he's got a clear contract, and it was just good to see him because he's on that Mean Gene platform. He's with Jesse, and I know it probably killed Tessitore to see Jesse turn away from the camera over and over again, but still, it was great to see him. I think he's done a really great job. I really do.
Yep, I agree. All right, moving on. Let's hand out our female wrestler of the year.
Okay. I think this is a 2-woman race. I think it comes down to 2, but there are a few that I feel needed to be shout out. Starting with our girl, friend of show, the new and one half of the U.S. Women's Champions, Chelsea Green. Like the work she has done, like her getting that U.S. Championship win on Saturday night's main event was a reward to me for all the incredible hard work and great character work that she put in throughout the course of the year. I think that was fantastic. So she deserves a shout out because I mean, she almost, to me, it almost like, oh, we need something to give Chelsea. Hey, let's create the U.S. Women's Championship.
Well, see, to add to that also, like, I feel like in the past, and it speaks to the new WWE, like, she makes you laugh. She has fun with the character stuff. Someone like that a few years ago, all of a sudden then you're just a comedic wrestler. Like, you're just doing backstage, and it doesn't matter what else you can do. But the fact that she still gets to go out there and show what she can do in the ring and ultimately get that belt Saturday, that shows to the new WWE what they are right now.
Yes, under Vince, she would always be that comedic character underneath, losing matches to younger stars.
Right.
And this was a reward for her to win that championship, to say thank you for, going viral. Thank you for the stuff that you've done. Chelsea Green, she is pro wrestlers. She's pro wrestling's Karen. And so that works. And by the way, this is when the fan cam comes in handy. The lights go down because they're ready for the next match, and the big hug that she gives to Piper Niven, a heartfelt hug, like, oh my God, I'm actually here and I did it.
Right.
It was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I think Willow deserves a shout out. While she is not, to me, the wrestler, I think she's trending in a very good direction. AEW. One name I wrote down just because she's been ROH World Champion, and I think you can speak more to it as our ROH guy, Hood. Does Athena belong in this conversation? I assume she does, but Tony refuses to put her on actual television, so.
I have her name written down. She gets a nomination. You can't hold the title for 2 years? Looks like 2 years now. By the way, I like the way we're cherry picking our guests. As
we have a very strong year of women's wrestling guests. Now that we go through this list,
it's all. Do we have a Sky Blue nomination? She also.
We can throw Liv in there. Get a friend of the show in a hell of a year.
Liv is on my list as well. Yeah. But no, Athena deserves to be on there. I don't know the disconnect of why she hasn't been on Dynamite or Collision. I don't understand that, but believe me, I'm the only one watching. She's doing yeoman's work. She's doing great work. So I can't help you there. I just don't know why she isn't,
And no offense to, the other half of the U.S. Women's Champion in Matt Cardona, but somehow he gets more television time. He's not even signed to the damn company.
I don't get it. So my other nominations go to obviously Jordynne Grace, not just in ROH, but also, TNA, but also in NXT. Jordynne Grace has done, I think more and more people understand who she is. She's always been on the indies and we've known how strong and how powerful she is, but somehow, some way she's going to make it back to the Rumble in 25. I think she'll find a way.
I think her contract is expiring soon, is it not?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
I think that's part of the reason why they brought
Tessa Blanchard
back. Yeah.
Yeah, that went over well.
Oh God, she is not on my list.
No,
also missing from mine. Just had to double check. Again, I think it's a 2-woman race, but I don't know if you have any honorable mentions. I think we're probably agreeing who the 2-woman race is, but
yes,
maybe I'm off.
We say Rhea Ripley. I mean, obviously her work with Liv Morgan.
So I think that the race ultimately comes down to: is it Toni Storm? Is it Rhea Ripley?
Right.
Yeah, I think we have a consensus that Toni Storm, timeless or otherwise, deserves to be Female Wrestler of the Year of GKW.
Yeah.
Are you fighting? Ooh, looks like Brian wants to fight that one.
Rhea would be the only one I fight it with.
Yes, I think that's why I thought it was a 2-woman race.
Right. The way Rhea carried Raw for a few months, she was the star. She was the one going out there and opening Raws and being part of the storyline. She did it as a heel. She did it as a face. I think Rhea might edge it by a little just from sample size and her doing more than what we've seen from Toni overall.
Tony's must see though. I mean, must see person in AEW.
Has she done more? I mean, she definitely hasn't wrestled more than Toni. No. So I think that has to be factored in. Toni. And this is no offense to Rhea because she is just being herself, but we have seen overall a badass, women, whatever her character is. We've seen that before in pro wrestling, and obviously it works because she's fantastic at doing it. We've never seen anything like Toni Storm and what she did with the timeless character, the black and white. They'd cut the screen in half. She'd be in black and white, her opponent in color, and all the different things that she did. And now, again, I think we have to factor in the new Toni Storm as well. The amnesia angle to this whole thing is fantastic. I cannot wait to see what she does next. She's running around backstage, introducing herself to people she's never worked there before. Oh, I'm finally All Elite. I can't believe this happened. This is I thought that the timeless character would die and okay, Tony's just going to come back and they'll figure something else out. For her to be able to pivot and still do something off of this it's Bloodline-esque. I don't think I've ever seen this for an individual character the way that we have seen it for Toni Storm.
She's had a tremendous 2024. There's no doubt. I really believe, and Michael Cole said this 4 or 5 years ago, these shows, man, need to be on some kind of awards nomination show. I know that under this regime, this Time Warner or Max, whatever, I think they run the SAG-AFTRA Awards. You got to send some stuff in because because one of the scenes is Toni Storm in the back saying she's so happy to be in All Elite Wrestling. She's All Elite. She can't believe it. And then you see Briscoe down the hall looking at her, staring what? Like, but I know who you are. Like, just stare. He didn't do anything. Just staring. Like Mark Briscoe. So happy to see you, Briscoe. Unbelievable. I can't believe it. And he's just looking like, wait a minute. I mean, put that in a nomination. That's award-winning stuff right there.
And even like the RJ sit down last night, where 3-time champion. Oh, I'd love to let's not get ahead of ourselves though. Like one day maybe, and like RJ playing it perfectly. Very good.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about there. I mean, that's just great stuff. That's Academy Award winning stuff right there. She's having
you might have swayed me. I might have to go Tony, because even thinking back to the moment when Mariah turned, it was one of those things that the minute they paired up, like, okay, they're gonna split up. But then Mariah being the one to turn, being on Dynamite with the shoe, we're all like, oh, actually didn't see that coming the way they did it. So
that's right.
I might have to go Tony. I think you guys swayed me.
I just think it's the best written thing that AEW had in 2024. Timeless Tony Storm. The whole story for 12 months, it's been the best thing. But I know this show's a safe space, so I need to just whisper something to you guys. Can I just tell you something?
Yeah.
Like, okay, just safe space. Guys?
Yeah.
Mariah May. Boring. It's not the promo's not there. It's just not there for me. It's like the in-ring action, yes. But and the stuff that she did with Tony with the shoe, all that stuff, but as far as when she gets a lot of TV time, a lot of promo time.
Well,
Gabe, it's not good.
It's away from Tony, right? Like she's away from Tony Storm and now she's standing out there on her own 2 feet. I think the Shirakawa stuff, again, her turning on Shirakawa before, thinking that maybe Mina would turn on her, that was kind of interesting, but it happened so fast when they did it. Without that aura of Tony protecting her, she doesn't seem as interesting.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Like the stuff in the ring, everything you just described, good. But then you put a mic in her beak. It's like, it doesn't hit the same. I know she's arrogant heel kind of thing, but but I see that a lot in wrestling. It's not great for me.
Well, it's Mercedes. Mercedes is that arrogant heel right now. Like, what is the difference between those two right now on TV?
Yeah,
Mercedes is better.
Right. Well, yes.
Yes.
But again, if you have to then compare the two,
right,
that puts Mariah in even worse light.
In terms of Tony, by the way, can we pitch and make happen a Tony Storm, Juice Robinson reality show?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
See those two.
I don't know how they got together. Look at those. There's totally different people. Juice Robinson. You want to find what Joliet, Illinois looks like on the map? It looks like every bit of Juice Robinson. That's what that city looks like. Him. Oh my god!
What do they talk about? Like, I want to know that. I want to see some of those conversations.
I saw him interviewed. It's like, she's completely weird. She's crazy. Like you're crazy.
Right.
You can't call anyone crazy.
Right.
You look in the mirror this morning, pal.
This guy's just giving you left-handed jabs the entire match. What are you doing, Juice Robinson? Weirdo. That's the show. Now, we're looking for guests in 2025. If there's any way that they can put those two together, let's put them on the show. I want to talk to it. Like, what's your relationship like? Strange. Odd.
So we've gone Tony Storm. It's official. Tony Storm is the GKW Female Wrestler of the Year.
All right, then. One more. Who is the Male Wrestler of the Year?
Whew. This is a little bit tougher. I think it goes a little bit deeper in terms of who the Male Wrestler of the Year could be. I have 5 names written down. I have Drew McIntyre written down because I think the work that he put in online, promo work in the ring was fantastic. I have Bryan Danielson written down. I think he did a lot of great character work growing as well. I have Jon Moxley. I have Swerve Strickland, and I have Gunther as the 5 that I wrote down.
I wrote 5 also, and I think I matched on one of them.
That's because one of them is a Costco guy.
It is not.
AJ?
We did take a picture together this week, though. I was in line. I had to. The 5 I wrote down, I had Brian on it, is Cody, Ospreay. I think Roman still has to be there. And I think The Rock. I know it's a short sample size, but like The Rock was back. The Rock was taking table bumps. The Rock was doing social media promos. Like he still was the damn
20
Rock again.
minute social media promos.
Yes. So I think he's in the mix.
The Rock is a great. I wrote down The Rock. I got all the names that you guys mentioned, so I won't be repetitive. But I'll pick out The Rock in particular. He's a guy that set the tone for the whole rivalry.
Yeah.
I mean, here's why he should be nominated and probably should win for some people is because of The Rock being a heel and the things that he said. We've never heard him speak and curse like that on social media because this guy's Mr. Disney, all this kind of stuff. And he goes into full wrestling mode. And it's the kind of Rock that we knew that was there in the Attitude Era, but he couldn't speak that way. Now, because he's got his own platform, I mean, look how he spoke. We go back in those things and we were watching this thing like it was gold.
Right.
15, 20-minute promos on a phone, like in the garage or working out or like wherever he was in Hawaii. Just like it was amazing to watch to the point where you thought Cody is not going to be able to win this thing. He had me believing.
It's hate Maui. Like it was a Maui heel turn in the Moana-verse. Like that's what he was doing this year.
I get it.
He said, I mean, when he's saying you're welcome in the ring, pretty good.
Yes.
Look at you now. Look at you now. Look at you now. Don't turn that effing camera off. I mean, it just completely broke the fourth wall. Just like, he's in Chicago in the rain, beating up Cody Rhodes outside Allstate Arena. And they're like, all right, Rock, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you very much. Don't turn that camera off. What do you think you're doing? Bam, he just keeps going. Like, wait a minute. They said cut. The show's over. What are you doing?
Final boss said it ain't over till I say it's over.
And just more licks to him, like with the cameras on. Like he's still going at him, like, oh my God, this is crazy. As the kids say, it's cinema. I get it. But for me, and here's why The Rock is in the same category of this guy, guys, because it's more than the wrestling. It's what you did on social media. It's you keeping a story alive. Drew McIntyre kept a story alive with an injured CM Punk. And we've seen Drew for a long time on our TVs, but we never seen Drew McIntyre like this. 2024 has been the year of Drew McIntyre. There's no question about it because they easily could have just shelved this whole thing until Punk was healthy, and now they both kept it going just because they were talking, and we were able to get some matches out of him. Hell in the Cell was great. I think that Drew has done a great job. He comes into New York to bust it open. I guess he wins an award there and does his promo still in character and just walks off where you don't know if it's a shoot or if it's, a gimmick. You don't know. And I thought it was weird, though, that he did the whole salute thing behind the back of the GM of SmackDown, Nick Aldis. I didn't know. I was strange. But nonetheless, I just think that he's done the best work because when we say Wrestler of the Year, it ain't the 5-6-star matches. It's not what would happen at the Tokyo Dome. It's about the whole package. And I think Drew's been that whole package.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, that was honestly the first name I wrote down because of how important he's been to the storytelling. You want to talk about the social media stuff that he constantly did, the T-shirts that he was able to come up with during that Punk feud, and even his return now. Like he's just such an integral part of every story that they're telling. Like he is a part of that cog of all the stories and has all these different touch points, whether it's the Bloodline, CM Punk, trying to talk backstage with Seth Rollins and make them see eye to eye. Like he has so many touch points. I think it has to be Drew. Cody hasn't been the best part of any story that's been told this year. Like you mentioned, The Rock was the best part of Cody winning and finishing his story. Kevin Owens is the best part of the best thing that Cody has done since the Bloodline.
But I lean Cody though because he's still involved in that, and I think we forget what a moment Mania was. Like him finishing the story, like him getting the win, and like yes, KO is overshadowing him. The Rock overshadows him, but he still is a part of that. He still is QB1. I do think we're going.
He's not QB1 though. He's not QB1. Yeah. Which, by the way, I stand by. Putting QB on your own tracksuit is a heel move, and I won't hear any arguments otherwise. That is a heel
that's
move.
The thing. I feel like we're going the Cena route now, and I'm curious to see what 25 looks like for Cody because fans were cheering KO on Saturday when the show went off the air, and he's pile driving him.
Not only was he being cheered there, he was cheered at the Netflix event yesterday. Like he shows up and I'm the real champ and people are going crazy for him. Like Cole's trying to do his best on the mic to get him to boo him, and he just can't get it. People want KO right now.
Yeah. Cody's run has been as good as Jinder Mahal's.
No, what? Like,
I got
yeah,
got so mad.
Yeah.
quite a turn.
That social media post of 2024, somebody actually wrote that. I saw that on our timeline. Someone said that the Cody run has been like Jinder Mahal's, flat and interesting.
No one mentioned Jinder in their match of the year or his big title match. Wasn't that like a random Raw?
I think it was SmackDown, but yeah.
Okay, whatever.
This guy was going to come through the screen at me and punch me from Florida.
Meanwhile, I'm like, ooh, tell me more.
I think I have PTSD from that run. That's why I like triggered something. Like, whoa.
I saw that. That's our Twitter post of the year. Someone sending us that this year. That Cody's run, because it's been AJ Styles and Nakamura and handing Kevin a championship opportunity, that outside the bloodline has been like Jinder Mahal, and I blocked him. So, so that'll be all for that.
But how crazy is it that, like, because I agree with Hood, and I think we have some work to maybe even convince Brian a little bit. How crazy is it that professional wrestling's in such a great point in 2024 that Drew McIntyre held a world championship for 5 minutes?
Yeah,
5 minutes? And he is, to me, the wrestler of the year. Like, he hasn't been Cody where he's been champion, or Roman where he was champion for all that time, or Danielson who was, a champion for a good chunk of that time. Like, he hasn't been, and he has just told the best stories in pro wrestling. And has been consistent at it and consistently great.
Well, you just hit on it right there. We've had several guests on, and in our best of show, we will give you some of the best interviews of Good Karma Wrestling for 2024. But we've had several wrestlers on here this year that said, I just want to be part of the best story. Bianca Belair said it. Chelsea Green said it. They said, championship, I like to have a run, but it's not really that important. I want a meaningful storyline. And with Drew McIntyre, Becky Lynch said the same thing. Becky said the same thing. She said, I just want to be in a storyline that's meaningful. So here's where we are now in wrestling. TV time's important, but being into something that's meaningful is important. And not saying that they don't want the championship, but it's like, why do I need to take that extra 10 pounds in my bag? Why do I need to carry that? Can I just get TV time, and can I be on something? Because people see what's happening with Drew and Punk and others in the company, where it's like, wow, they get a lot of TV time, but no championship ramifications. That's good. That's a good thing. That means wrestling's in a good spot.
I think also I'd say in terms of a good spot, like, none of us mentioned CM Punk. Like, he's been in some big spots, but we wouldn't even consider him for this.
We would not. We would not.
Which I think is a credit to the WWE. Like, he's still special, but he didn't have to be everything.
His whole thing, his back and forth in Boston with Seth Rollins, I think that could blossom into something special. Mm-hmm. CM Punk's promo is very average. I don't know what happened. It kind of fell apart on him. That was not great.
No.
But I'm sure when it's in the ring, there's some heat there. There's actual heat problems between those two. But when it's in the ring, it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. Yeah. But I just think that in 2024, guys, I said this when we had our award show last year, that 2024 is going to be unbelievable. And it has been. Mm-hmm. 2024, with the freedom of movement, just to see TNA wrestlers in WWE. It started off in January. It's like, what's Jordan Grace doing there?
Right.
What's that, like, what's going on? Like, so to mention TNA on WWE programming, so there's a relationship there. To see AEW with New Japan and watching how the WWE's got this ID program where they're reaching out to try to get future stars from the indies, just to see how the Forbidden Door is not just in AEW, but it's everywhere now, pretty much. I just think that we're in a really great spot. The other thing is about independent wrestling. Guys, here's the thing that's really disappointing about wrestling. We don't have, like, we go to ESPN.com and get a spreadsheet of, like, attendance and how big things are. We get that with women's athletics or with, with men's and the ratings and the attendance, those kind of things. We don't get that for wrestling, unfortunately. But every video I've seen in 2024, They pan the crowd, full crowds, big crowds, independent wrestlers coming in. So independent wrestling's doing really well thanks to WWE. Thanks to them, because the old adage is if New York's doing well, everybody's doing well. And every time I see an independent show online or go to one, it's an amazing crowd and people are into it. So wrestling's in a great place right now.
Agreed.
Well, I think Brian would probably just disagree and say it's because of the Costco guys.
I mean, there was a big line and big boom with AJ.
Yeah, but you said there was nobody for Marshall. QT Marshall. There was nobody?
Everyone kept moving there. It was all for AJ.
But did you get a picture with QT Marshall? Oh, okay. All right. Folks, he's showing us a picture of him and the Costco guy, which is just pathetic.
Boom.
Just I mean, did he have the broken leg, the broken foot?
His foot's still in a cast, and he still did a run-in the main event. And the reaction of the crowd, like everyone pops, and then there's someone turning like, "Who the F is that guy?" And then explain.
Wait a minute. I mean, so again, wrestling's in a great place, but people have a long line for a guy that hasn't wrestled in 20 years before he's on AEW, the Costco guy. It's unbelievable.
Shout out AJ.
Okay, AJ, he's his friend now. Okay,
yeah, we're buddies.
So
we talked about my shirt that I was wearing.
So what is your wrestling highlight, Brian? Because I went to independent shows. I went to our first GCW show, which was awesome. I told you I went there. That was interesting. I'm like, you guys all know the storylines of GCW? Oh, that's interesting. I went to my first New Japan show this year, the New Japan ish.
Yeah.
So I went there. So what about you? Your wrestling highlight?
I mean, I did see a show at a church and a synagogue in 2024, so I'm very equal opportunity, see all over the place. But I think it was being in Philly, like being at the Link and being at Mania, where like for years I've sort of felt disconnected from Mania, where I was like, this isn't for me. Like, I don't want to sit through this. Both nights were awesome. It was cold, at least for someone from Florida. But just being there and seeing that and seeing The Rock in 2024, I think that can't be stated enough.
And Gabe, you got your hand slapped for taking videos in Milwaukee.
I did.
Tell us about that. Is that your highlight?
Yeah, so that's the one thing I kind of realized after you said this. I did not see a lot of pro wrestling live this year. It just didn't, for whatever reason, work out on my schedule. Again, the one time I went to AEW, I was just kind of leaning up against the railing. There's nobody behind you because there's nobody on the hard camera side because they don't, advertise when they're going to be in town. So I was just taking videos there because it was going to be a pain. I had a really good seat, but I'm like, you know what? I don't want to disturb anyone. I'm fine here. And then, no, are you with us? No, I'm just a member of the media. Well, you can't be here. All right, I guess I'll go to my seat. Like, I'm not bothering anyone. I'm just standing here taking some videos for the YouTube page. But I think that's the goal. I want to try to be able to get to some more events in 2025. I think that's the overall goal, whether it's a independent show just that happens to be here in Milwaukee, whether it's AEW, whether it's WWE. I need to make it a concerted effort to get to go see more pro wrestling live because, again, the shows have been great, especially if you get a Dynamite in Milwaukee, if we've had SmackDown and Raw, just the shows have been really good and on point. And, gone are the days of when I went to, Fiserv Forum to see my guy, Dean Ambrose, and instead he was walking out with a gas mask because he had to be inoculated from everyone. And it was a 3-hour Raw. And it's like, dear Lord, how much more do I actually have to watch? Those days are gone. You've got really good weekly TV shows, and that's added, gotten to us to really good pay-per-views and PLEs.
So more Turner Hall for Gabe.
Yeah.
And it shows that's where he's going.
Well, so that's what I'm wondering, because I know KO and Sammy love Turner Hall from their old ROH days because they used to run ROH shows there. And when they're talking about AEW doing smaller venues, like, I'm assuming they'll still end up at the Panther Arena here, but I wonder if they would eventually do Turner Hall. I think the last wrestling show they had there was maybe an NXT show.
NXT will run it. Tell you what, they'll run a show there and just be fine and sell it out and pack it out.
Oh, yeah.
So that's, I'm looking forward to a few more shows as well for 2025. But guys, it's been a great year. No question.
Yeah, it has been a great year. Check out all the great stuff that we did throughout the course of 2024. Comment, subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/@GoodKarmaWrestling. Check some of the highlights that Brian had from, what was the show again?
Festival of Fights, because Hanukkah is referred to as Festival of Lights. This was Festival of Fights.
Festival of Fights.
There was a spin the dreidel match. It was very exciting.
Maybe those highlights. Only one way to find out. Find the highlights. YouTube.com/@GoodKarmaWrestling. Obviously, JHood has not taken time to check those
Someone
out.
won
but you can.
5,000 Hanukkah gelt. It was a big moment. The chocolate coins with the gold wrapper. No, not familiar.
Apparently not familiar. But stay familiar with us. We'll be back in 2025 with more great stuff. Stay tuned next week for our Best of 2024 show right here on GKW.